Hi, I'm Kevin Hatley and welcome to Kevin Hatley Photography in my office. This is a channel that I've set up to share my experiences of wildlife and nature with others. So let's go. In wildlife photography there are fundamentally two ways to get close to your subject, which you need to do to get the photographs that you're after. The first one is to actually stalk your subject, so you're on foot and you're moving across country. You try to get into position as close as you can to your subject, remain undetected and photograph your wildlife. The other is for you to sit in a hide and wait for the subject to approach you. So what I want to do in this video is share with you my experience and my knowledge of photographing wildlife from a hide. So what we'll do is we'll look at the different types of hides, we'll look at the equipment that I believe that you need to have when you're photographing from a hide, we'll look at how to position a hide, we'll look at, we often share hides with other people, not just photographers, could be members of the public and bird watchers, and I think as photographers we need to take that little bit of a moral high ground and be a better person because we're sharing the hides with other people. And I'll just cover what I believe makes you a better photographer, and on the way I'll share with you some top tips in photographing wildlife from a hide. And there are a number of different types of hides, and what we'll do is we'll look at each of them in turn. Firstly, you've got your static hide. That's a hide like this. This is a bird hide that's situated in Clumber Park, which is in the Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood country here in Nottinghamshire in England. You then have your pop-up hides, which are lightweight and mobile. You can carry them as an individual into position and set them up. Bag hides, again another lightweight solution to carrying a hide with you when you're moving about the countryside. Vehicle hides, I made a separate video on how to photograph wildlife from a vehicle, and I'll share a link with that at the end of this video. And finally there are floating hides, which is really a specialist type of hide. There's plenty of videos on YouTube covering floating hides. I'm not going to cover them in this video. So what I'm going to do is mainly look at static hides, pop-up hides and the bag hide. I've spent many hours, many hundreds if not thousands of hours in hides photographing wildlife, and you need to have a certain amount of equipment with you. Once you're in that hide and you're in position, you shouldn't be getting up, you shouldn't be moving around. Once you're in the hide you should stay where you are, stay still and have all of your equipment to hand. So the type of equipment that I would recommend that you should have to hand in a hide are as follows. Obviously you're going to need your camera and your lens. For wildlife I shoot with a Canon R5, and on this lens at the moment I've got the RF 100 to 500 to give me that bit of reach. You're going to either need to have a tripod or a beanbag. In this case my camera's sitting on a beanbag at the moment, which is more than ample within this hide. Other things that I think you need, things like binos. If you're going to be in the hide for quite a long time, you're going to need to have a bit of food probably and some drink with you. Make sure that you've got plenty of spare batteries. You don't want to be setting yourself up for a long session in a hide and find that halfway through your batteries are run out. So make sure you've got spare batteries all topped up ready to go. Memory cards as well. Mobile phone with me, and make sure the mobile phone is completely on silent. But your mobile phone, you can access so much information through Google. If you want to identify birds, if you want to identify calls, again I would recommend that you wear earphones obviously when you're in a hide if you've got a mobile phone on, but obviously switch to silent. So that's the equipment I would recommend that you should have when you're in a hide. As photographers, we don't have the sole right and access to wildlife hides that are permanent and static on nature reserves. They're open to the general public, they're open to bird watchers, basically they're open to everybody else. We don't have a sole right to be there. So I think that too often I've seen people in hides acting in a manner which gives photographers a bad name. So I just follow some simple rules, a little bit of etiquette for when I'm in a hide. So what I suggest, that the kind of approach that you should take is be friendly to other people. Manners doesn't cost anything. Be approachable, you know, show interest in other people. We all began somewhere, and I don't make myself out to be an expert, but if somebody asks me a question, if I know the answer to it, then I will take the time to pass that advice and that knowledge on. Be patient. Nobody's perfect. Just be patient. Patience is a virtue, as they say, but it's probably one of the most important aspects of being a wildlife photographer is patience. So be patient with other people. Be helpful. As I said, we all began photography journey at one time. We were all beginners once, so be helpful to other people. Be considerate, as I said, be considerate to other users. General public coming in, this hide here is a public hide, anybody can come along at any time. I've been sat in here before taking pictures, and you'll get excitable young kids coming in saying, oh, what are you doing? And you know, yeah, your chance is probably gone, or they've just scared something off. But at the same time, if people are asking you questions, take the time to be polite and answer the questions, and be quiet. Here I am sitting high talking to a camera, there's nobody else here. I've made sure that I've come on a day when I knew that there wouldn't be many people around to make this video. But noise in a hide is a pollutant, so be as quiet as possible, and as I said, make sure your phone is either switched off or it's on silent. So it's all about being a better photographer. Firstly, we'll look at the static hide. This is a static hide, the type of hide that you'll find on a public nature reserve. You also find them, lots of commercial hides set up around the country, and they use permanent static hides in place, and they're the places where you go, you sit down and you wait for the wildlife to come towards you. Some tips for using static hides. I would suggest that actually before you get into the hide, you actually set up the kit that you're going to need. So just get your camera out your bag. If you're going to have you're carrying a bean bag with you, have that ready to hand as well. Just so that you're not causing a bit of disturbance once you actually get into the hide. As you're entering the hide, one thing that I would suggest that you do is just to take a moment to have a look around and see if people are actually in the middle of trying to photograph something. They could be in the middle of photographing, I don't know, something like a kingfisher. The last thing they want is you come stumbling into the hide, making a noise and disturbing the subject that they're trying to photograph. It's all about trying to be a better photographer. Okay, once you actually get into the hide itself, a couple of little tips that I think that you could follow is, once you get into position, slowly, take your time, but deliberately make sure you arrange your gear so it's close at hand. So for instance, I've got all my stuff in my bag here, so all I would make sure is that the bag is down at my feet and is at hand. I'm not having to get up, move across the hide, get my bag, come back, sit down and try and get stuff out. Everything is at hand. Other thing that I would do is make sure that you don't leave things that you're not using lying around on viewing platforms that could get in the way, or you could knock off and onto the ground, cause a noise and make a disturbance. As I said, it's all about being a better photographer. Okay, you come to the end of your session and it's time to leave the hide. What are you going to do? The first thing that I would recommend is as you did when you came into the hide, is just take a couple of seconds to check to see if anybody's in the middle of taking images. Again, you know, they could be in the middle of photographing an important piece of wildlife. Just have a quick check. If they are, sit, wait until they're finished. Then again, slowly but surely, make sure you've got all your kit together. Make sure that you clean up any waste, so sandwich wrappers, bottles, basically rubbish that you've brought with you. Make sure you pick it up, pack it away, and that you're going to take it with you. Slowly but surely, get all your kit together and leave the hide as you came, quietly. Be a better photographer. So what I want to move on to now is the more portable type of hides that are available. These are the type that you're going to carry into position, set them up and sit and wait for the wildlife to come to you. First one we're going to look at is a pop-up hide, and I'll show you a video of setting one up. I'm going to now set up a chair hide and then sit for a couple of hours to see what comes along. That quick and easy to set up. Here we have a side-on view with the feeder station on the left and my chair hide on the right hand side. And here is my setup with the chair hide, where I've been sitting for the last 2 hours getting photographs. Okay, the portable bag hide. Just want to take a minute before I talk about the portable bag hide. I'm currently, this is a little bit of look forward, I'm currently working on a project to photograph red wings and fieldfares. And this is where this bag hide really does come in. And I hope to have that video out early in the new year. At this time of year, it's the beginning of December, the red wings and the fieldfares that have come into the country are very skittish. It's very difficult to get near them. The place that I found where there's plenty of berries, it just happens to be on a public bridleway. So the public are walking up and down, the birds are often up and moving all over the place, difficult to get near them. I found a place where I think they're roosting, but it's the human shape that actually scares the birds off. So aim of the bag hide is to disguise the human shape. Bag hides come in nice, lightweight, portable little bag, quite simple. Bag hide comes out and it unfolds. Now the important part on the bag hide is there is a skull cap where your head fits and a mesh where you look through, and then there is a hole for your lens to go through. At the front of the bag hide there's a velcro flap. Make sure, top tip, make sure that this is fully done up before you try to get into it, otherwise you'll have all sorts of problems. So what you then have to do is take the bag hide and fit it over your camera and your tripod. Fit it to your camera and your tripod so that when you approach the camera, all you've got to do is lift the top, pull it over, and it will sit on top of your head straight away, and then just readjust the side skirts so that you get the final position for the bag hide, like this. You've moved into position. How are you actually going to set the hide up itself? First thing I would advise you, if you're going out for a day with a hide, is go to the loo before you set your hide up, because once you're in that hide you shouldn't be getting up and you shouldn't be leaving it. Try to make that hide as comfortable as possible, and as I said, the same as in a static hide, make sure you've got all your equipment to hand. You don't want to be moving around causing a disturbance. So get in, get comfortable, make sure everything is hand, get ready to hopefully have a great session. So when you're positioning a hide, I would suggest to you the following tips about actually positioning a hide out in the field. Tip number 5 is research. Make sure that you know as much as possible about the subject that you're trying to photograph. In this instance here, and I've made a video on it, and again you'll get it on my playlist, is how to photograph hares. I didn't know a lot about hares before I actually did the video, so I did a lot of research. I got this book from the RSPB, it was a great book all about hares. Made sure I knew everything about my subject before I actually went out to find them and set up a hide to photograph them. Okay, tip number 4 in positioning your hide is all about location. What you need to try and do is find a good location where you can actually photograph the subject. With regards to going back to the hares, I'd seen a number of hares in a farmer's field. I'd been watching them for quite a while. I wanted to get close to them to photograph them. It was on private land, so I went and approached the farmer to get his permission to go onto his land to photograph them. And again, I've made another video on the approach that you should take if you want to try and get permission from a landowner, which is very important if you're going to set up a hide. But with regard to the actual location of the hide itself, you need to consider things like the position of the sun. If you're going to be in that hide for quite a time, you need to know where the sun's going to come up in the morning and where it's going to go down in the evening. So if you're going to have a session in the morning, you need to position in your hide in a certain way, as you will if you're photographing from a hide in the evening. So make sure you're aware of the position of the sun. Distractions. You don't want to be setting a hide up, getting into your hide, setting your camera up, all ready to go. Your subject comes along, then all of a sudden you notice that there are distractions in the way. Overhanging branches, grass in the way. Take the time to do a good recce. Don't cause any damage. but if you can remove the distractions, then remove the distractions. In this picture that you can see here, the barn owl, I spent quite a bit of time watching this barn owl. This picture was actually taken in the golden hour, last thing in the evening. I had a rough idea of where the barn owl was going to be, how it hunted, and I made sure I was in the right position. I knew where the sun was, and I got the picture I was after. So tip number 4, location. Okay, tip number 3 is about distance. Probably the most important consideration that you should have with regards to where you're going to position your hide. Aim to try and get as close as you possibly can to your subject, but at the same time not that close that you're going to disturb the actual wildlife themselves. So you need to consider noise, and also your subject's hearing capabilities. Subjects like deer, foxes, they've got absolutely fantastic hearing, and they will hear you way before they actually see you. So think about distance, and that leads me into tip number 2, which is all about the background. For me, the background of your image, your photograph, is as important as the subject itself. So again, taking into consideration where the sun's going to be, where you're going to position your hide, try and set it up in a place where you've got a good background. You don't want to be getting that fantastic picture of say a kingfisher, all of a sudden to find out that the background just distracts everything, and it's happened to me, as you can see in the couple of photographs I'm going to show you now. Again, with regards to the background, things like distractions, make sure that you can get rid of them without damaging the place. Okay, tip number 1 for positioning your hide. It's all about time. Once you've found that location, you've looked at things like the direction and the background, you've took all those into consideration. Next thing you need to think about before you actually get into the hide and start photographing is to think about time. Can you actually leave that hide in a secure enough position so that the wildlife can get used to it? And can you get into that hide in time without disturbing them so that you're ready for them to approach you and you get the images that you're after? You've got to allow the wildlife enough time to get used to this shape that's all of a sudden turned up in the area that they're used to. You need to be patient, but you also need to be persistent with regards to time. Don't expect to turn up on the first time and everything's going to be there and it's going to turn up, you're going to get great images. It doesn't work like that. So you need to be patient and you need to be persistent. So things, as I've said, that we need to consider with regards to setting up your hide. Have you chosen the right location with a great background that's going to get you the images that you're after? Portable hides, seats, static hides, they're all great places to get the images that you're after. So what I want to do now is just leave you with some images that I've taken, some of my favourite images that I've taken of wildlife from hides. I hope that you enjoy them. Okay, thanks for watching this edition of Kevin Hatley Photography and how to photograph wildlife from a hide. I hope that some of the tips and the experience and knowledge that I've shared with you helps you to get closer to wildlife and get the images that you're after. All I would ask is that if you've liked the video, could you hit the like button? Could I also ask you to consider subscribing to my channel, Kevin Hatley Photography. It's completely free, it doesn't cost anything, and it just keeps me giving that little bit of an incentive to come out here into the English countryside and photograph wildlife and nature and share that experience with other people, and hopefully they learn from the experiences. I learn all the time. Every time I come out and I make one of these videos, I learn also. So until the next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.